Hello and welcome to Into the Woods with Holly Wharton. This podcast has evolved over the 5+ years since it first launched. From now on, I'm going to be talking about deepening your connection with yourself, taking inspired action, and really trusting yourself and your intuition. And also mindset, of course, but mindset of all kinds, not just business mindset. I think. Things are changing for me, as you may have noticed if you've been following me online or listening to this podcast, so anything goes here. I hope you stay along for the ride. Thank you so much for joining us today, and now let's get into this week's episode. Hello and welcome to the Into the Woods podcast, episode 349. This is your host, Holly Wharton, and I'm back with another episode with the fabulous Joanna Hennon. Today we talk about social media. Is it inherently bad? We hear all kinds of stories of people deleting their Facebook or Instagram accounts for whatever reason. We also hear people talking about how social media is super toxic. But is it really? Here's what we think about it. Here's what you're going to learn. Is social media actually bad for your self-esteem? Is social media inherently bad? Why you might want to take a break from social media instead of deleting everything. Why it's so important to actually know the people who show up in your feed and why you've chosen them to be there. What you can do to make your social media feeds feel better. How to set boundaries on social media. How to be more mindful of how you're using social media. How to declutter your social media profile so they feel better. And we ask the question, should you declutter people and things that make you feel bad? The answer might not be what you expect. We also talk about how to get clear on why certain things make you feel bad on social media. Joanna also explains how social media fits into the concept of being soul smart and living as souls having a human experience. We also discuss how can you make social media feel great and include some practical things that you can do today. And finally, we include the questions that you need to ask yourself so that you can make your social media feed feel inspiring and great rather than a drag. So, on to this week's episode. Hey, Joanna.
Hey, Holly.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm really looking forward to our topic today.
Me too. I love social media.
I've had kind of a love-hate with it over the years, so I think I'm really looking forward to digging into this topic. So last time we recorded our last episode that we did together, somehow in some point of the conversation, I don't remember if it was before or after the episode, we asked the question, is social media really bad for your self-esteem? Because I think a lot of people think, oh, social media is really bad and you need to delete it so that you can feel good about yourself. And I don't necessarily think that's the solution. Like, I don't think it's inherently bad. So let's dig into this topic. Is social media really bad for your self-esteem?
I think it can be because anything that kind of naturally encourages people to post only the highlights has that potential, right? So like, we're not even talking about social media in an online business or anything like that. We're talking about social media for just a regular person. Like,
life.
What are you going to post on Facebook or Instagram? You're going to post yourself making cookies with your kid, right? You're not going to post the moment when he like throws the cookies in your face or like throws up on you.
Or when you burn the cookies.
Or when you burn the cookies. Oh, you might post when you burn the cookies, but like you're not gonna post those other times. Like, you're gonna want to post the ones that you want to share, that you're proud of, that you want to remember. Like, that's a function of Facebook that I've been really enjoying, actually, is the memories.
Yeah.
I really enjoy seeing those pictures come up year after year now of when my son was small. So for example, so it can be because we're posting a highlight reel.
I mean, I think I also see people occasionally posting like the bad stuff that happens because they want support and sympathy. But that's a very small portion of it.
Yeah. And that is, I mean, that's less kind of bad for our self-esteem, but I think it's quite bad for our energy in general, because anytime we're kind of sucked into like pity, we get pulled down. Like energy vibration wise, we get pulled down, and it's very difficult to stay kind of in a more powerful place and respond to a person in need from a more powerful place when they're on social media. You don't know them. You don't know the backstory. You don't know their usual patterns. Like, it's much easier to do that with a friend.
Yeah.
So that you can lift them back up rather than you going down to their energetic level.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that there's another trap in those kinds of posts, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And those posts are, like I said, very few and far between compared to the highlight reel posts.
Yeah. I mean, most are a highlight reel because we want to share the good, obviously. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you made cookies, like, yay you know, or you lost 10 kilos, yay you, or you're on vacation and having a great time, yay you. Like, it's not a bad thing. But I think, like, if we're looking at social media and just consuming, so just scrolling through and you see everybody else having this great time and whatever, while you're like, you know, under the duvet crying because you can't like be bothered to get out of bed and like make toast, let alone like chocolate chip cookies, you know, then it becomes a problem because you think like you're lacking in some way.
But I think also it depends on how you use these things. So like you can see other people's highlight reel and think, oh my God, that's possible for me. Here's what I need to do to get there, even though I feel like shit now. Or you can use those same images to feel bad for yourself and beat yourself up. It's all how you use that. You can motivate yourself for good or you can motivate yourself for bad. And I understand that like there is mental illness and depression is a real thing. And I don't know if that, I don't even know how to bring that into this conversation, but
that's not just about depression though. It's just like when I think when you feel like you're lacking, you know how, because we've become so isolated, like we no longer live in communities. We no longer kind of see the realities of each other's everyday.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you don't see that, you know, the neighbor is in their pajamas the whole day or hasn't left the house in a week or like, is so stressed out that they don't really eat or like we don't see those day-to-day realities because we live isolated in our little places. And so we end up thinking that all the kind of more negative stuff that happens to us or the stuff that we quote unquote fail at, you know, we don't manage to do our exercise. We don't manage to do all the things that we're supposed to be doing. We think it's just us. And then social media seems to agree because everybody else is making cookies and like doing Christmas cards in August just to get a start on things. And you're kind of going, like, am I supposed to be doing that too? And that's what I think, it's that comparing, you know, like kind of comparing and then assuming that everybody else has their shit together.
Yeah.
And you're the only one who doesn't.
Yeah.
So I don't think social media creates that. It just exacerbates it.
Yeah. But again, I think we're also responsible for how we respond to this stuff.
I agree.
And I think that when people say social media is bad, you need to delete it. I think those people are not taking responsibility for how they're choosing to respond, because we choose how to respond to things. Like, again, you know, I can look at people before and after weight loss pictures and say, oh my God, that's so inspiring. I aspire to that. Or I can be like, oh, you know, this will never happen to me. I suck. They're so perfect at whatever fasting method they're using, or I don't know, whatever.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, we do have a choice, and that's with anything, right? It's the same conversation. We could be having the same conversation about money. Yeah. Also neutral, and you know, you can take it to mean all sorts of things. So I totally agree that we have a choice. Not like we also have a choice not to take what we see online as like personal commentary on our own life, right?
Yes,
like those are two separate things. Like somebody else making cookies doesn't mean that
you're like a lazy person who eats store-bought cookies.
And but the thing is, like, we make up these stories. So I'll even share one with you. I have a person in my life who has a young child, and she's constantly doing things with this child. She was doing all these posts about finger painting and whatever. And every time she posted, I would feel so bad about myself because I'd be like, oh my God, like I never did that with my son. Like, I'm such a horrible person. Like, look how much fun they're having. I don't know how much fun he would have had if only I had been less selfish. Whoa. And, you know, and done this with him, made the time to do this messy, annoying thing, you know, that's finger painting with a toddler.
Because it's going to take you an hour to clean up after it.
Yeah. And an hour to like set it up, right? So, but then so I was beating myself up and going, oh, and trying to make myself feel better. Oh, I'm not so bad. Like I've given him these experiences or these experiences instead. But what happened afterwards was, a week later, Facebook put a memory in my feed of a photo of me and him finger painting.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Facebook.
And I was like, oh my God, like I just have a story about being a bad mother or not good enough mother. And so anything I see has the potential to feed that story. And it's nothing to do with the truth. Because, first of all, the finger painting has nothing to do with with whether I'm a good mother or not. Some people have the time inclination, some people don't, and either is fine. But, in this particular case, I was actually like, I didn't remember that when he was that small, I also did those things with him. We're not doing it now because he's bigger and he doesn't want to.
Yeah, exactly.
So we do have a choice, and I think we have to be really aware of the thoughts and stories that come, especially the stories. Like, what story is it feeding? Whatever it is you're seeing on social media. Like, what is it making you feel not good enough about? Like, are you not earning enough money? Are you not taking enough vacations? Are you a bad mother? Are you a bad business owner? Are you, like, in which ways are you deficient? What's being brought to light?
Yes. So, like, I think when we're triggered by people's social media posts, we need to stop and take the time and say, like, why? Why am I triggered by this?
Yeah.
And as you said, what story is this feeding? What story is this reinforcing? What limiting beliefs is this reinforcing? And then we can use that triggering for personal growth rather than just being like, I feel bad about myself.
Yeah. Sometimes it gets so bad that I think you do have to take a break, from social media and from everything.
Yeah.
And I've known people in situations like that as well. Like, is it the right choice to completely go off social media or not? I don't know. But possibly. And if you feel like that's the right choice, then fine, right? But like, just because you go off social media doesn't mean that those triggers will disappear because your neighbor will be making cookies.
Exactly. So I think this is really important. So as you said, sometimes we need to take a break. So some people talk about, I deleted Facebook, I deleted Instagram, I deleted these apps from my phone, I'm no longer using them. That's super extreme. And you can do that, and maybe that's the right thing for you. But maybe there's a middle ground, which is taking a break for a while. Like, plenty of people I've seen over the years say, I'm taking a month off from social media. And that might be another thing you try. I'm going to take, 2 weeks off, a month off, 6 months off, whatever, and then see how your life is different. But as you said, you're still going to get the triggers from another place.
Yeah. So you have to like deal with your own stuff, really, no matter where it's coming from, right?
Exactly. It's either going to come from social media, it's going to come from people in your life.
Yeah. I mean, another thing to say about this is that, like, we really shouldn't be spending our entire days scrolling through other people's, Instagram and Facebook posts.
Yeah.
That's not, of course, that's going to make you feel bad because you're not actually living. You're like sitting on your couch scrolling, right? So only you can know how bad the problem is. I mean, these things are designed to hook you in, to get you addicted. Like, they're actually built that way for a reason, so that you never leave.
Obviously.
Right?
Yeah, obviously. And so if you're feeling the need to take a break from social media, also be aware why you're doing that. Are you doing it because people's shit is triggering you? Is it because you're spending too much time? And that is a very good reason to limit your time. So like with the iPhone, you can set limits on certain apps. You can say only a half hour on Facebook. And then but for people who don't have good self-control, that's a very valid thing.
Oh my God, I have like no self-control around Facebook, and I would like that thought just terrifies me. I'm like, but no phone is telling me 30 minutes only.
But you can put whatever time you want on it, and then you can also it'll say your time is almost up on Facebook, and then you can say remind me in 15 minutes, or you can say disable for the day. So, but it brings to your awareness just how much time you've spent on that app, which I think is useful.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't really find a problem with how much time I spend on it. As like what I find for me, the problem is like what I'm doing on it. If I'm mindlessly scrolling, sometimes I notice that I'm scrolling and the things that I'm actually clicking on or paying attention to are the drama things.
Yeah.
So somebody had a problem and let's see what the solutions are, or like something happened and we're going to be bitching about this other person. Like, and so I notice now that when I'm like, what am I doing, Joanna? Like, what are you doing with your time? You know, like you're just getting sucked into other people's drama. What are you trying to avoid in your own life, right? Like, what is this trying to distract you from? So it's not from like, I don't mind that I'm on Facebook, you know, hours every day if what I'm doing brings me joy. You know, for me, that's connection, right? So that feeds me. If I'm online, like actually having conversations with people, then I don't particularly care that that's taken 6 hours of my day. Like that doesn't bother me at all because it's experiences that have enriched me in some way or have fed me in some way, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So we talked about taking a break. Are there other things we can do to improve the way we use social media or to make the social media experience better for ourselves?
Well, I guess this awareness of what about it, you know, when do you feel good and when do you feel bad? Yeah. There's lots of things to love about social media as well. So what kinds of things make you feel happy? Yeah. And what kinds of things don't? And then, the kinds of posts that you're seeing are also important. Like I'm going through my Twitter account at the moment because I find my Twitter feed extremely boring. Yeah. Because when I started it, really, like I followed all the news organizations and then I followed a bunch of like business coaches and that was my focus at the time. But now like I go on there and there's nothing in there that I want to look at or read. Yeah. So I'm unfollowing. Yeah,
I really need to declutter my Twitter feed. But also you can create lists on Twitter. So if you've got like lists of like podcasters that you like or business people that you like or news stuff that you like or like whatever your hobby is, like camping or hiking or whatever, you can create lists of just those people and then just go in and look at that list. So that's also really useful. So
that is useful.
So you can segment your 3,000 people that you're following into stuff that you really care about.
Yeah, I think I actually need to do that. So that's kind of like an ongoing project. Whenever I see a post from someone who this is another thing actually. So for me, social media is for connection, right? Yeah. And when I connect with people, then it doesn't have an influence on my self-esteem or my energy or whatever. Right. And it's really started to bother me that I follow people who I don't know in terms of like, there's a name that pops up and I don't know why I'm following them, like what I clicked on that I must have liked something at some point to follow them in the first place, but I don't know who they are. Like I don't know from just the name. I don't know whether they're a business person or a spiritual person or like someone, I don't know. Like I have no idea. And that started to bug me.
Oh, I just unfollow.
So now I'm unfollowing those. Yeah. Now I'm unfollowing those because I would like to be able to say that I know the people. Yeah.
Or I'm so interested in their posts, even though I don't know who they are, I want to get to know them because their posts are really interesting and thought-provoking.
But if they're thought-provoking, then you'll know that, this is the person with the thought-provoking posts. Like, like know in that sense. I can place them somewhere. Yeah. I remember like working with a business mentor years and years and years ago, and she would pride herself on knowing, not personally, obviously, but knowing pretty much everybody on her email list.
Oh, wow.
And I thought this was really, really cool. So we're going to give her a shout out because so it's Tash Corbin.
Oh, yeah.
Who used to say this. She has grown a lot since then, so I don't know if this is still the case. But back then,
she knows everyone on her list these days.
But back then, she certainly did, and she would pride herself on that. Like she would know something. She would recognize the names. Yeah. Because those people were also in her Facebook group, and so she would just know something about them. Maybe not huge amounts, right? Yeah. But she would at least recognize the name and be like, oh, yeah, I think she posted something the other day. Like, and I thought that was so cool. Mm-hmm. Now, in fact, I'm going to rephrase that because I did it at the time. I was like, what? That doesn't matter. Numbers matter. Yeah. So now I'm like, oh, my God, that's so cool. Yeah. And I think that's what I'm doing with my own social media. Yeah. I want to like be able to place the people that show up in my feed and like, It bothers me on Facebook when I get posts that are super wonderful, so somebody's had a baby, or somebody's pregnant and they're so happy, or somebody got engaged and they're so happy and they're posting these photos and this announcement and I don't know who the fuck they are.
Yeah.
It bugs me. I'm like, why are you sharing your joy with me when like there's no connection?
Yeah. Well, they're sharing their joy to the world and you are part of their world, but you don't give a shit because you don't know who they are.
But it's not that it's not that I don't give a shit. It's just that it just bothers me that I don't know them and they're sharing such personal news with me when I have no idea even usually like which continent they live on.
Wow.
And I think there's something wrong with that. And I think like there used to be this movement to like get to know the people in your audience and like message them privately or whatever. But that's kind of considered spammy. But on the other hand, it's nice to have an actual connection with the people whose news you're getting. I
agree. And, as we've been having this conversation right now, I've been thinking, like in the last couple of weeks, I have met up for a walk with someone who's on my email list, who I actually met in person years and years ago, but then we lost track and she's been on my list and we met up for a walk and it was lovely. And then I had like a Skype chat with someone who's also been on my list and like and that's been so great. And so I've been thinking like, I don't want to fill out my calendar with like calls with people, but I would like to maybe have a few calls with people from my list or ask them to like respond to an email and let me know who they are or something, because I would like to have more of a relationship with them, because the two experiences I've had in the last couple of weeks have been really great connecting with people.
Yeah.
And they've both said, I really like getting your emails because, for different reasons. But it was really great to actually meet these people who have been receiving my emails every week for the past, I don't know how many years. Like,
I know.
Connection.
I think that, so I've been really thinking about that as well. And we should have a separate private conversation about that probably. Holly and works like brainstorm a little bit about how to do this. I think there's definitely, I'm going in that direction as well. And it does really extend to social media as well. Like I want to know the people whose news I'm getting.
Yeah.
Like I want to care about them.
Yeah.
And if I don't know who they are and I don't even know what they do or why they're in my feed, then I'm not heartless, but like, we don't have a connection. Therefore, my caring level is a bit low.
Yeah. I mean, for me, as you said earlier, social media is all about connection, connecting with people. And I feel like at some point it became more about the numbers and how many likes and, followers you have. And I feel like we're kind of coming back to true connection rather than superficial connections.
Some of us are.
Yeah, true.
I think. So we can declutter people that we don't know. That's already going to probably really improve your social media experience, because if all the stuff that you're seeing is from people that you know of, not even, I'm not saying like you're just your friends, right? Let's be really, really clear here. Like, but you know who they are. You know that Liz Gilbert wrote that book that you liked, or that Holly talks to trees. Like, something about them.
Yeah.
And you're interested
and
in
you're still interested
what
in
they're
them.
Creating, or wondering what they're going to do next, or like whatever that is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't it be wonderful to have your feed filled with that rather than like people you don't really know, like doing these wonderful things in Bali? I don't know.
Exactly. Like I spent the last few months on and off, like deleting business people because, I was following all the online business people for so long, and I've been trying to get rid of that from my feed and also from my newsletters, and starting to follow more authors because I want to be inspired by authors, not, typical online business people, because I've had enough of that. So I want to be inspired by authors who are doing the thing that I want to be doing to bring in money. So that has been a big shift for me as well. I've changed in how I'm, running my business and bringing in money. So I'm changing the people I'm following because I want to learn from different group of people.
Yeah. And I think, just to offer a slightly different perspective, like my approach isn't as clear cut. It's not moving from business to author or whatever. So like the line of who to declutter is a little bit, like just not as clear, let's say. I've kept some business people, once in a while, I really enjoy their content. And so I keep them. Mm-hmm. I've kind of let go of all the people that I no longer want to learn from, or who I disagree with in some way in terms of like, this is for business stuff specifically, but like where I know now I'm not in a, oh, I don't know what I'm doing place. And my approach is different to their approach. It's never going to mesh.
Right. Yeah, so it's no longer useful for you to be reading their stuff.
Yeah, and I think the question to ask yourself really, sorry, Holly, I think I interrupted you there, but like you brought up a really like nice phrasing of it, and I think we should highlight it. A question to ask yourself is, who do you want to be inspired by?
Yeah.
Right? Because you want your social media feed to be inspiring. That doesn't necessarily mean all positive, but it means inspiring. Like, who do you want to be inspired by? And just ask yourself that question, about each of the people that you follow.
Yeah.
And you might not listen to their podcasts. You might not buy their books.
Yeah.
It might just be for the Instagram feed or for their Facebook feed. But like, you need to be able, like, you need to take something positive.
Yeah.
From that exchange of you reading their post, right?
Yeah. Like I just followed this photographer yesterday on Instagram, and I was looking at her profile and I was like, oh, she lives in Maryland or somewhere. And I was like, I'm never going to work with her, obviously. But I was like looking through her feed and I was like, her photographs are so beautiful. I just want to see them in my feed, even though like I'm never going to work with her probably, unless I take a trip across the Atlantic. But it was just so lovely. I just wanted to see her feed.
And that's beautiful. Like, you should totally message her and tell her that. Because, like, I don't think we do enough of that either.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right.
I mean, this is totally not social media related, but I'm going to tell it anyway because we don't, like, give each other enough of that positive feedback.
Yeah.
I think just randomly, like, and in recent years, one of the times that I did it when it was like most appreciated is I emailed my dentist. So I have this huge dentist phobia and I cry every time and it's really horrible. And I had to have something complex done. And we did it and I survived and it was all right, and whatever. And the next day I emailed them and I said, thank you. Like, you really handled it as well as you could have under the circumstances. And I just really appreciate that you were there with me for this horrible thing, and they replied and they were just like, we never get messages like that.
Who emails their dentist?
Nice things. Just think, like, if you like this woman's photos, what a beautiful thing to do is, to tell her. Yeah. I don't know. Like, I think we don't act on those impulses.
Yeah, I agree. And, I like saying nice things to people, like when I genuinely like what they do. And so yesterday I was on television with, this morning and this lovely woman, Hamlet, and I was thinking about sending her a message on Instagram and just saying, you are such a lovely human being. Like, it was great to like work with you for an hour yesterday and like meet you. She was just genuinely lovely.
Yeah, I think like we think these things, but then we don't act on them because it's become awkward or I don't know, like, or people become suspicious. I really don't know why, but like, I know that people think I'm a little bit crazy, or I get the impression that people think I'm a little bit crazy, but like, I will tell the lady in the street that she has a nice skirt.
Yeah. Yeah, I do that too sometimes. Not as much as I'd like to, but yeah.
It's a nice thing. Why wouldn't you if you thought it?
Yeah, I know.
Right? So anyway, that's another thing that we could be using social media for, is cheering each other on. And if you like somebody's thing, tell them. Yeah. It doesn't need to, be even if there's an expectation that maybe you'll buy something from them in the future, who cares? It's still your own choice whether you'll buy or not. So that was a bit ranty, wasn't it, Holly?
No, it was good. I think it's important. This is another kind of connection. This is like connecting in a really beautiful way. And I fully recognize the fact that like both in the street and in offline world and in the online world, I don't say the nice things to people as much as I would like to.
Yeah, and I think that would make not just the world a better place, but also the social media world a better place.
And it takes like a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
totally.
Okay, so what about we talked about decluttering people you don't know, and you don't know why you followed them in the first place. But what about decluttering people and things that make you feel bad, that like trigger your insecurities and trigger your stuff? Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Because I know I have unfollowed a couple of people that I didn't want to unfriend, but I also didn't want to see them in my feed because they were triggering my insecurities and my shit. I'm fully conscious of having done that on at least a couple of occasions.
My view is that there's a fine line there, because yes, like if somebody's posts are making you fall into fear all the time and really make you feel like shit, then why put yourself through that, right? But I think there's a bit of a trap there because we could end up decluttering anybody who has a different opinion, anybody who challenges us, and only like surround ourselves with like-minded, pleasant, kind of run-of-the-mill kind of people, and then we don't grow, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's a difference between somebody making you feel like shit in a like, I don't know, like let's say in a bad way, in a good way, right? Because
yeah.
sometimes something, you say to me, Holly, because Holly challenges me, right?
Yeah.
Like our friendship has that in it, that challenging. Like she's not going to be like, oh yeah, you're right. She's going to be like, no, what about this? And stop doing that. And, but it doesn't make me feel like shit. It challenges me to think in a different way, to have a different perspective, or to approach something from a different angle. And sometimes I disagree and I think about it and I'm like, no, Holly, actually, I'm right. What I'm saying is right for me.
Yeah.
And she'll be like, okay, but there's a challenge there to grow, to either start thinking differently or become more sure about the way you are thinking, right?
Yeah.
I'm just going to say, like, if you delete all those people, declutter them from your social media account, there's not going to be that growth opportunity. And you'll find that you're not really creating more of what you want in your life. You're going to just keep getting more of the same, right?
Yeah. And I think there's a big difference between people whose posts are inherently kind of toxic and people who are just triggering your shit. So like going back to the finger painting example, like one thing would be unfollowing a woman who's like always finger painting with her child because it triggers your stuff. And another thing would be unfollowing a woman who says, if you don't spend 3 hours a day finger painting with your son or your daughter, you are a bad parent. Like that is toxic and weird. And yeah, I would totally unfollow that. But this, the first example is just, something to look at.
Yeah, I think we need to make that distinction. Like that goes into a little bit of fear-based marketing, right?
Yeah.
And that we'll get from people trying to sell stuff. So business owners or companies who are also not inherently bad and people one should unfollow, right? Yeah. But it like just become aware of the place from which people are coming at you. Like, are they coming from a place of trying to get you to feel crappy?
Yeah.
So that you take a certain action, right? Like, if you don't get this sorted, you'll never be successful. Or, like those.
Yeah. Fear-based marketing.
Yeah, fear-based marketing. Basically fear-based marketing. Or are they coming from a place of love and sharing?
Yeah.
And sometimes it can be a little bit deceptive because you'll think that people, like it would seem that the post is coming from a place of love or sharing, but it's not.
Yeah.
Because it's designed to try and trigger a positive emotion and then reel you in at the end. So it just for yourself, just see like which ones challenge you to think differently, to consider things. Like I think, Holly, we've talked about this several times over the past few years, this need to go deeper and beyond the surface. And I think social media can really play a role in that because we have access to so many different experiences and opinions and perspectives. And so to use social media as a tool for growth. Yeah. To challenge you, okay, something triggers you. Why? What story is that feeding? How can I then transform that? How can I look at this differently? Is she right or am I right? Like, it's not about agreement, but it's about considering things at a deeper level and really thinking about them rather than just accepting black or white. Yeah. Hey, somebody has painted it for you, right?
Yeah. Finger painted it for you.
Finger painted.
Ideally.
With cookies.
Yes. So what about, and this is something that you mentioned when we were chatting before we hit record, what about like business influencers and online gurus who tell you to unfollow everything else and just kind of listen to them? I haven't noticed this as much.
They haven't said it this way, but like I've seen several people in the past few months, like trying to get people to go like on a learning ban or like to declutter, like that they're listening to too many people and so they should declutter that and only choose one or two. And that, it's always meant, I just don't feel like it's meant in a really like giving way.
Yeah.
I think it means like follow me and then unfollow everybody else.
Yeah.
So So I think there's a problem there as well. Like I always have several people I'm learning from at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I never learn from just one person. That's just the way I am. And I really like it that way because I actually really like to have different perspectives. I'll even be learning like similar topics or following people who talk about similar topics from different perspectives because I'm interested in making up my own mind. And so it's interesting for me to see other people's thought processes.
Yeah.
And then I can make up my own mind based on that.
Yeah.
So I would be a little bit wary of someone who tells you to just basically follow them.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Stop learning from everybody else. I mean, I know that we shouldn't be like spending our whole lives like watching free webinars and all sorts of crap, right? Like that's also not the way to move forward. But just take that personal power back and know for yourself, like who inspires you to be the best version of you, to lead your best life, to be fulfilled and satisfied and happy. And who does not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think we need to talk about kind of social media as something that's active and makes us feel bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Versus letting us.
Yeah. Because we control.
Making us feel bad.
Yeah. I think we control how we respond to things and we're responsible for how we respond to things. It's like the Shakespeare quote, nothing's either good or bad, but thinking makes it so.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I think that's important because we do this in all sorts of areas, right? Like maybe, this one friend always makes you feel bad or this one coach always makes you feel bad.
Yeah.
They don't make you feel bad.
No.
You're letting them make you feel bad, right?
Yeah.
And usually it's like reflecting something in you.
Yeah. They do a thing or they say a thing and then you respond.
Yeah. So that's just I mean, we touched about this at the beginning of this episode as well, but I think it's so important that it should be spelled out.
Yeah.
Social media and what other people post, it doesn't have that power. So don't give it that power.
Yeah.
To lower your self-esteem or to make you feel bad, right? That's always a personal choice. Yeah. And that power piece, I think, is actually that way. The way that phrasing came out is quite interesting because that's what it is, right? Like it's staying in your own power.
Yeah.
Essentially staying true to yourself, right? So for me, that's the whole soul smart concept that I work with, right? To look at things from the perspective of you being a soul.
Yeah.
Aside from the human being that you're currently being. And that means staying true to yourself, staying in your power, like not letting things sway you one way or the other, right? But like knowing that you're enough and that you're okay no matter what the external stuff is and that you know what's right for you. So you know who you should unfollow. You know who inspires you and who makes you like fall into a deep pit of despair. Like you can, once you become conscious, like a conscious participant, and really be aware, you'll see like, why is it that every time this particular person appears in your feed, you end up feeling crappy or you end up having cookies for dinner? I think I need cookies because I'm talking about cookies a lot.
Yeah, cookies are coming up. It's a common thread in this episode.
Yeah, I'm going to need to get a cookie.
Are you going to make them yourself or are you going to use store-bought cookies? Because that's going to depend on what listeners think of you.
Oh, yeah, totally. Well, I'm going to make them myself, but not to make you feel bad. It's just that I'm currently not eating store-bought cookies for health reasons. So I'm going to have to make them myself if I want one. Okay. So there you go.
All right. Okay, good. All right. So I think this soul smart concept is really important to talk about here because we talk a lot about personal growth, personal development, the soul's journey. So we are souls having a human experience. From this perspective, like, why would a soul be interested in spending time on social media? Isn't it a waste of time?
No. So for the way I see it is, from the soul's perspective, you are already fine, right? Like your perfection. There is no personal development. There is no, working on yourself. Those concepts don't exist because you are everything you need to be. So the soul smart way of approaching social media and everything else in life, really, it's what we talked about, actually. It's using it as an opportunity to know yourself better, right? Like to be more of you.
Yeah.
And so that's why we want you to look at things that challenge you and not just declutter everybody who makes you feel bad. Like that's why we want you to think about different things from different perspectives so that you can get clearer on who you are and just be more of you, be like sink more deeply into yourself and your own power, your own personal being, right? And that's how it fits into being soul smart, because social media can help us do that, right? Like the people you bump into in your little village or grocery store, they probably won't even talk to you, so they won't do that.
Exactly.
But social media, people are posting their opinions all the time.
Yeah.
Which means you have like tons of opportunities to get to know yourself better. What do I think about that? Is that true? What's true for me? Keep asking yourself, what's true for me? Is this true for me? And if you don't know, explore, right? And that's being soul smart. It's allowing yourself to growth is a good word, but it's not because you need to become something else. It's more deepening, I guess, than growth, right?
Yeah.
Like it's more sinking into than being bigger.
Yeah, exactly. I talk a lot about knowing yourself and the importance of knowing who you are and how that makes everything easier and better and more joyful and more fantastic in life, because the more you know yourself, the better you'll be able to make decisions for yourself and, stay on your path and be true to yourself.
Yeah. And it's true to yourself, like, and your personality, but it's also true to yourself and your greatness.
Yeah.
Right? At soul level, you are greatness. And so leaning more into that and trusting more of those nudges and your intuition, all that stuff. Like social media is a great tool for that, because it constantly triggers, it constantly gives you something to play with. It constantly gives you something to react to, right?
Yeah, definitely. So how can you make social media, or how can anyone make social media feel great? How can we turn it from either a toxic environment or a meh environment into something that feels really great and inspiring? What can you do?
That's such a personal question, because it depends what you want or need right now. There was a time when my whole feed was business coaches and business inspiration, business growth stuff. And I loved it. Like every time I went on social media, I'd get like 3 tips to do this and 5 steps to this. And I loved all that stuff. Like that's exactly what I needed, because I need, those bite-sized pieces that I could use that made me think about, maybe I should do this strategy or that strategy. So that's what I needed at the time. And then last year, I found all my social media feeds to be just boring. And I stopped going on social media, because I was like, I just don't seem to connect with anybody. The stuff that's in there, I don't really care about. I care about the people. I don't necessarily care about what they're doing, because it's not of interest to me anymore at this stage. And so I switched things around, and now I follow a lot of different people, and I have a lot of different things in my feed. One of the things that I've done with my Instagram feed especially, so listeners will know that we are manifesting a move to Galway, which should be very, very soon now, to Ireland. And one of the things I've done with my Instagram feed is I follow everybody who has anything to do with Galway. Anything at all the restaurants, all the photographers, all the yoga studios. I mean, like, and anybody who's even like random people who live in Galway and have Instagram accounts, anybody I come across. And so my feed is like more of a, I don't know, it's not like an aspirational feed, but it's an inspiring feed for me, because I know this is going to be my life soon.
Yeah.
So that's brought a lot of joy to my social media, to have that aspect included in with other things that I care about. So you really just need to ask yourself, right? Like, what do you like? Holly, you have all authors now, right? Or mostly authors.
And I'm still in transition to that. And I really need to just sit down and make a list of authors, because I need to sit down and make a list of authors that I really want to focus on following. Because right now there's like one big name person, Joanna Penn, whom I follow, but she's one person. I want 10 people like her.
Yeah.
So,
So if you have suggestions, send them to Holly.
Yes, please.
Like, which authors have a good social media presence and are inspiring in that world, right?
Yeah, not just but like people who are self-publishing and making a good living from their money. from their books.
Yeah. So what do you need right now? Like, what do you care about? What kinds of people would you love to talk to? Like, in real life, like, what kinds of people would you like to talk to? And those people you want to follow. Those are the people that will uplift you, that will raise your energy, that will show you what's possible.
And also, what are the things you want to learn? Yeah, I've learned so much on social media. Like, people often talk about Reddit being a really toxic place, and of course it can be like anything else. But I got into fasting from Reddit. I've learned so much about fasting from Reddit. I've learned so much about so many, like, practical things like hair care. You know, a few years ago, my hair was super frizzy and I hated it, and started doing research, and I came across the curly hair subreddit, and my hair isn't curly, but it is wavy. And so I have to treat it differently. Otherwise it gets like a poof ball. So, you know, I've learned practical life stuff from there. So what do you want to learn? What do you want to learn more about? Whether it's something like spending more time in the outdoors, camping, hiking. I follow so many like camping and hiking subreddits because I love seeing people's pictures of where they're going, where they're camping. Like, now it's winter. I'm not spending that much time outdoors. So I want to see what other people are doing.
Yeah, I think that learning piece is really important as well. Like, I follow a lot of food bloggers and people like that because I'm interested in cooking. Yeah, I follow a lot of people who read interesting books.
Yeah.
Because I like to get book recommendations. Like, so it really just depends on you. Like, really treat your social media stuff as as your personal space. So these are the people who will inspire you to make your vision for your life a reality. And that's not like a success goal type thing, or the goals could be included. Like, if you want to run a business or grow a business, then by all means find some business people to follow. Like, I still follow several business people because although I'm not starting out anymore, like, I still want to grow and I still want to try new things. And I like to be inspired by what other people are doing, you know? But I also follow people, as I said, the Galway stuff. I also follow several Polish food bloggers. Yeah. And it's not for the recipes. It's to keep, I don't know, I just like having something Polish in my feed once in a while since I'm Polish. Like, I'm not very in touch with that original identity. And it just gives me a little bit of an extra something. And so it makes me happy when those things show up in my feed. So, like, really make sure that your feed feels good to you, and only you can know what will do that. When I decided that I needed to change all my social media stuff so that my feed, you know, on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter is interesting and fun and uplifting and inspiring and all these things, I had no idea where to start. So if you're like that, don't worry. Just look around. Like, just start paying attention. Who makes you feel good? Who makes you feel bad? Yeah. Who challenges interest? Who's interesting? Who's boring?
And maybe start by decluttering to clear up your feed, and then start adding people and things that are interesting to you.
Yeah. So there you go.
Good. All right. Is there anything else we need to add here? I feel like we've
I feel like we're done.
Yeah.
We could say lots of other things about social media, but I feel like we're done. And the point of this was to help people kind of sort out their own social media so that it's not so tiring, so that it can be a tool for growth, for personal growth, and for reality creation, right? And to just feel good. Like, it's a big part of our lives these days. So why wouldn't it feel good?
Yeah. And don't, sometimes when I unfollow people, I feel like, oh God, what if they notice? People aren't going to notice. And if they do, who cares? Yeah. So do what's right for you, and don't worry about hurting other people's feelings, because if you hurt their feelings because you unfollowed them, that's something they're going to have to work on.
No, you want to really focus on who's showing up in your feed and how that makes you feel, and if your feed is a nice place to be or not. Yeah. Yeah. That's it, because it's yours. It's your space.
Yeah. And nothing's either good or bad. It's what you make of it.
Yeah. There you go.
All right. Great. Happy social media decluttering and following.
Feel free to find us on social media and reach out. Say hi. That would be really cool. If we can connect on social media. Yeah, I think we're both pretty easy to find, so there's no problem. And send us a DM or a PM or whatever is appropriate on that particular platform. And just say hi. Say you heard this episode and you're making your own social media feel better to you. That would be really really awesome. We would love to talk to you.
Yep. Sounds great. And tell us what you're doing to make your social media feel better. Like maybe you're following, new food people or new whatever. Like that would be fun to hear. So thank you. Hope you enjoyed this week's episode. I will be back next week with another solo show. In the meantime, please drop me a line and let me know what you thought about this topic, what you thought about our perspectives, and most importantly, what actions you have decided to take or what actions have you already taken to change your social media feed and how it looks and who you're following. What have you done? I would love to hear from you. So drop me a line at holly@hollywharton.com or find me online on social media and get in touch there. Also, I would love for you to join me on Patreon. If you get value from this podcast, please head over to patreon.com/Holly Wharton and you can join me there. Membership starts at just $1 a month and you get exclusive access to stuff that I don't share anywhere else. Thank you so much for listening. And remember to visit show notes at hollywharton.com/349 for all the links and all the stuff that we talked about. Thank you, and have a great week. Thanks so much for listening to Into the Woods with Holly Wharton. You can find more information about today's episode, including links for topics that were discussed, at hollywharton.com. That's HOLLYWORTON.com. If you'd like to connect with other listeners and get support on your journey, I would love for you to join my private community on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Holly Wharton. That's patreon.com/Holly Wharton. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to seeing you next week.